Go ahead and start the recording. We still have about 2 minutes. Frederick, what time is it where you are?
Just before 7 a.m.
But you're a morning person, so.
Yeah, I'm most mornings I'm up at 5.
Oh.
Some mornings earlier because I have meetings that start at 5.
Oh my gosh, it's terrible.
I hope you've got some good windows facing east then, Frederick, so that you can get the first light of dawn as it comes up.
No, unfortunately.
Yeah. You don't actually live out in Coronado, do you? Or do you live, where you live in San Diego?
On Coronado Island.
You're on Coronado? Wow, nice. You've got to drive over that big high bridge all the time then.
As infrequently as possible.
Yeah.
All right, it's 9 o'clock. Are we ready to get started?
Sure.
Okay. We are recording, and I'll go ahead and share my screen and share the PowerPoint. Let's see. I'll have to share sound. There we go. All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome. This is lecture number 4 in a series of 4 lectures. We are very glad to welcome you to this IFLA Fake News and its Impact on Society series. Before we begin, I would like to thank IFLA and the supporting IFLA groups who've made this virtual lecture series possible. These are the IFLA News Media section, the Freedom of Access to Information and Freedom of Expression Strategic Program, the Copyright and Other Legal Matters Strategic Program, and the Digital Humanities Digital Scholarship Special Interest Group. Today, we'll be welcoming Viktor Mutyev from Library and Information Science School of the St. Petersburg State University of Culture, and Damien Wong and Sarah Peck, both from the National Library of Singapore. Your moderators for today are Anke Winsmann, librarian from Staats- und Universitätsbibliothek in Bremen, Germany, Richard Ritchie, librarian from Yale University, and Frederick Zarnt from Digital Divide Data, and I'm Anna Kramer from University of North Texas Libraries. We are all representing the news media section in the moderation group, which is kind of rare. I think we've had a mix of different groups, but today it wound up being all news media folks. This event is being recorded. Please be aware of that, including chat. The recording of this event will be posted on the news media conference and publications pages. So on 2 different pages, you can download links for this. Your microphones have been muted for this event. You can see in the bottom that we have a live transcription service running. You can adjust this in the transcription settings, and you can find that under More. Please be aware also that, oh dear, never mind, forget that. It's a different thing. All right, so for today, our first speaker is Viktor Mutyev. He will present to us about news analytics and LIS education. Viktor has been studying at the Library and Information Science School of the St. Petersburg State University of Culture and received a specialist degree, which is, according to Viktor's biography, something like a master's degree, before 2016 in Russia. In 2013, it was a master's degree before 2016. Victor has had an international experience while studying in Vilnius University at Lithuania in political science, philology, and media as an exchange student during the winter semester from 2012 to 2013. In 2017, he defended his PhD thesis, congratulations, Victor, on the subject of management of regional purpose-oriented programs as a tool for improvement of library and information policy. Since 2013 to 2020, he has worked as a specialist in educational and methodical work in the Dean's Office of the LIS School. In 2017, he became senior lecturer. From 2020 to present, he holds the position of associate professor at the Mediology and Literature Department at the LIS School at St. Petersburg State University of Culture. He's also the head of the Scientific and Creative Programs Department. Victor's published more than 40 works on topics of information analytics, media, LIS methodology, information policy, and library management book science. He is a curriculum designer and instructor of such courses as media communications and LIS and analysis of news and advertisements. We welcome somebody who is an expert in the field in this lecture. Thank you so much. And here we go.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a big pleasure for me to be here today, and let me introduce my report about news analytics in library and information science education and practice. So let's start. The increasing complexity of the communication landscape, apparent in the continuing diversification of media used in everyday life, affects the perception of the reality around us, but at the same time reflects it. Our interaction with the world is shrouded in a complex mosaic of information. The data we receive, often haphazardly, both verified and false, changes our attitudes to global and local processes, having explicit as well as implicit effects on behavioral habits. The coronavirus launched social, political, and informational changes at the same time. It intensified the exchange of data, ideas, meanings at the interpersonal, organizational, and mass communication levels. These changes are followed by an additional pressure on information networks, as well as increasing extension of their power. The rapidly changing information landscape brings new risks and creates new public needs. In this regard, libraries located in the very heart of local communities are expanding their social and educational functions. One of the specific and most urgent challenges that library and information science community faces is the phenomenon of fake news, which have become a hallmark of the modern digital age, just like post-truth, misinformation, infodemic, and infobicity. In these conditions, critical thinking, media literacy, and analytical skills are widely considered as crucial competences of LIS educators and practitioners. Since the early 90s, the Library and Information Science Department of the St. Petersburg State University of Culture has been conducting research in the field of information analytics and became the major hub of it in Russia. Since 2017, news analytics and its implications in this theory and practice have become one of our research and teaching priorities. At the first phase of our research, we carried out a theoretical analysis of scientific literature in order to determine the current understanding of the place of news analytics in international scientific discourse and the limits of its appliance. We have figured out that news analytics is most firmly rooted in economic research, as well as political sphere, journalism, education, and tourism. Along with the term news analytics, the term news literacy is actively used. In some studies, news literacy is perceived as a skill focused on identifying reliable news reports in social media where they coexist with entertainment information and disinformation. Another approach is focused on articulating the importance of freedom of the press, journalistic work, its efficiency, relevance, accuracy, honesty, balance, and objectivity. The third approach considers news literacy as part of a comprehensive media literacy course that includes searching, analyzing, and evaluating media content in various formats. At the same time, it's important to note that news literacy is often isolated from media theories and library and information science. That is something we don't agree with. At the second phase of our research, we have analyzed the academic disciplines dedicated to the study of news in Russian universities. A trend we have identified is the dispersion of news topics in various academic disciplines. The theory of journalism, media communication, sociology, philological sciences, etc. The results of the two phases of our research have shown the ambiguity of the use of news analytics and news literacy concepts in the scientific literature, their situational interchangeability. Lack of theoretical basis determines the absence of predictable patterns and principles of the functioning of news. The undertaken comparative analysis of existing Russian educational practices made it possible to establish the shortage of special disciplines focused on news. Within the framework of existing courses, primary attention is usually paid to the production of news, their structure, stylistic features, genres, namely textual problems. From our point of view, news analysis focused exclusively on studying content and its distribution carries certain risks. In this case, the social, cultural, political, and economic conditioning of communication, as well as the processes of production and consumption of news, their transformation and iteration in social media, and within the boundaries of interpersonal communications, are ignored. The results motivated us to design the course Analysis of News, which from our point of view is a consistent development of bibliographic, bibliological, and book research skills. Moreover, such courses are not available in Russian library and information science schools. I'd like to point out that at the time of our study, special courses focused on news analytics were not found in European and North American library and information science schools as well. If the situation has changed, I hope my colleagues will correct me. We proceeded from the assumption that news analytics should be reoriented from the outcomes, news texts as a kind of thing in itself, to a process that allows tracing the inextricable bond and continuity between the creation, distribution, and consumption of news content in a specific socio-cultural environment. As you can see on the slide on the pyramid, news, including fake news, are just the tip of the iceberg. Another essential level is user analysis, including personal biases, cognitive errors, individual experience, and background. The next level is the study of organizational structures, the sociology of news production. And finally, the fourth, most difficult level is the examination of social mythology, values of different societies and local cultures, including the culture of everyday life, routine practices, and rituals that directly affect our perception of the news. In other words, the course should model an understanding of how authors reach audiences, how communication technologies affect the construction of meaning, and how the perception of reality depends on the effects of media. This approach predetermines the three-part structure of the course. In the first course unit, students make an in-depth study of the basic media theories to make an inside in the essence of news. The second course unit is devoted to the sociology of news production, the study of news agencies, as well as the qualities, functions, structure, and composition of news. The third course unit is devoted to methods of information analysis, focusing on news, the advantages and limitations of observation, interviewing, content analysis, discourse analysis, and other methods are considered. The practice of teaching the course, as well as the aforementioned problems found in the scientific literature and educational practices, necessitated the development of a special analytical technology that would satisfy educational, applied, and in the future, scientific goals of studying news. We have developed a model for the deconstruction of news, which consists of a number of successively implemented steps. The first step is the search and selection of news in accordance with the user request of the assigned research problem. The second step is the analysis of the structural and compositional integrity of the news. Keywords are highlighted and logical and associated connections are built. The third step is the assessment of the news contextualization, determination of the types of context present in the material, and interpretation of its usage, compliance with key positions marked during the previous step. The fourth step involves the identification of corruption techniques that can have a psychological impact. These techniques can be provided through the purposeful use of special lexical elements, methods of speech aggression, the construction of social myths. The fifth step is focused on defining the transparency of the news, the openness or anonymity of sources, the correctness of citing information, impartiality, the absence of prejudice and favoritism. A direct continuation of these procedures is the sixth step of deconstruction, verification of news data. Verification refers to the assessment of the reliability of news and includes the study of sources, their credibility and intellectual independence, analysis of presented evidence, and the balance of the representation of competing points of view. At the same time, the analyst must be proficient in fact-checking tools and have knowledge of digital projects that specialize in checking text, audio, visual, and other types of content. Analysis of the communication channel and its peculiarities is the basis of the seventh step of the technology. It's important because the construction of meanings is directly connected not only to the content of the transmitted message, but also to the variety of forms of material embodiment. The transition to the era of new materiality, digital, does not change the concept. The eighth step is the analysis of a set of external, non-textual factors that can influence both the reliability of news data and the communication channels of their replication and dissemination. The final step is the preparation of the analytical report or essay. Each of the steps of proposed technology is inextricably bounded with the classic academic disciplines taught in library schools, as you can see on the slide. Moreover, in the classroom, we focus on various news resources from different countries. Therefore, we stimulate the development of linguistic competences and expand the understanding of the diversity of the world. We see prospects for the elaboration of this issue in designing and implementing an international project under the guidance of IFLA. From our point of view, among the key objects of this project could be theoretical study and development of a consolidated approach in relation to the basic concepts of news analytics and publication of IFLA guidelines. Incorporation of news literacy in the list of essential competencies of the modern information specialist. Comparative study of international educational practices in the field of news analytics jointly with the IFLA education and training section. Design of an academic discipline with commonly accepted structure and content. It's going to ease credit transfer between library and information science schools and in this way promoting academic mobility. It's also necessary to develop practice-oriented courses for joint implementation on the basis of schools, libraries, universities, and recommendations for the practical use of news analytics techniques in libraries and educational organizations. Construction of a multilingual online resource of educational practices, trainings, workshops, cases in the sphere of news analytics that will contribute to the internationalization of library education and practice. In conclusion, I would like to note that news analytics is not only about fake news, post-truth, and misinformation, but also about plagiarism, the spread of pseudoscience, the stigmatization of fears and phobias, and the limitation of diversity. The problem is not only false facts, incorrect argumentation, and illogical statements, but misleading and misguiding in a rapidly changing world. Libraries and library schools should make every possible effort to counter this and provide opportunities for the learning and development of a well-rounded personality. And this in turn will contribute to strengthening the library's role in the digital public sphere and foster its social significance. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer it.
All right, we will now have a question and answer session between Anka and Victor.
Yes, thank you, Victor, for this very interesting presentation. Some attendees had difficulties to understand the sound, and so they asked for a short recap of your presentation. Maybe you have the most important points.
Okay, so we can start from this summary of my presentation. I was talking about the research that we have been conducting in St. Petersburg State University of Culture. It has started 4 years ago, and we started to research how popular is the topic of news media analysis is in Russia. We found out that in library and information science schools, there are no such courses as news analysis. And we started to design a new special course for the specialization in our library and information school. And I was talking about the steps that we had, about the difference between news literacy approach and news analytics approach. And finally, we have elaborated a special news analytics technology that I was presented, and that consists of 9 phases. I hope you could have seen it on the slides. So I don't know, probably we can develop my ideas in questions and answers.
Yes.
Probably it will be easier.
Yes, and maybe some can use a recording to go through it again. So I have a first question about the relationship between the concepts of news analytics and news literacy. Can it be considered as interchangeable? What do you mean?
Okay, thank you for your question. From my point of view, the concepts of news analytics and news literacy are quite similar. However, they are not interchangeable. Both concepts focus on critical media consumption on the need to assess resources, evidences, verify the content, and so on. I'd like to point out that here we have a lot of intersections with what Philip Russell said in the very first lecture, Stop, Think, and Check. But there are a lot of differences between youth literacy and youth analytics. They are not clearly articulated in professional literature. It seems to us that youth literacy is a broader concept, like an umbrella concept, and it's addressed to the society as a whole, to all who consume and use. Therefore, youth literacy is a baseline. It's a certain basis, a set of skills that we need for safe existence and well-being in a digital environment. So youth literacy is the activity for libraries and library professionals, which they should popularize and raise awareness for the broad public and address to different target groups. So this is a contribution that libraries can make for the development of more harmonious and balanced social relations based on well-informed judgments, I would say so. And youth analytics is a concept that reflects special professional skills that students of library and information schools and practitioners should have in hand. So youth analytics incorporates the knowledge of scientific methodology, analytical techniques, and of course, a wide range of humanitarian knowledge, without which it's impossible to build a holistic picture of the context and particularity of the news. So to sum up, youth literacy is about practical everyday skills, and youth analytics is about special knowledge and skills. I would say so.
Thank you. And here's a question about how many students have completed a course in this news analytics, and what is the level of education it is designed for? It's for beginners or for more grown up?
Okay. Since the beginning of the implementation of this course, about 150 full-time and part-time students have completed it. In our institute, it's designed to bachelors who have chosen the specialization information analysis in book trade, art market, and business. In fact, there are a lot of difficulties. There are a lot of difficulties for bachelors because it's not easy for students, but I think like to all of us to abandon our prejudices, to abandon priority channels for receiving news, and it's difficult to adapt classical research methods to such a dynamically changing phenomenon as news. And I would like to point out another interesting thing. From time to time, there are cases when students perceive critical news consumption too straightforwardly, too directly, and begin to question absolutely every word, absolutely everything. So this is a destructive approach and certainly not what the course is about. So questions should be reasonable. So for now, this course is for bachelors, but probably in the future, we can organize some workshops for practitioners. We already had some conferences, some roundtables, but probably it can be transformed into workshops for practitioners. I hope so.
Okay, that's good. And which of the steps of the news analysis technology is the most difficult for realization? Sorry, and why?
I would say that the most difficult steps are data verification and analysis of external non-textual factors that affect creation and distribution of news. And this is because of the fact that we are not always able to determine whether an author is intellectually independent. Yes, we cannot always understand the motives and therefore establish the objectivity of the material. Along with this, there could be certain contradictions in the fact-checking tools as well. I mean, not all of them can be trusted because their creators and sponsors can also be biased. So, as a rule, of course, there is no need to identify all the details all the time. But in general, these steps are rather complex and difficult for realization and implementation.
Mhm. And there's another question. Can the problem of fake news be solved with technological advances and with the help of technological skills of library professionals?
I think that developing technological skills is a strong and I would say compulsory requirement for maintaining the competitiveness of library information professionals, but this can be a magic cure, can't be a magic cure. The most productive approach seems to me it's a social technological alliance when deep knowledge of humanities and understanding of the evolution of social sciences are complemented by technological competencies. And in our work, we are trying to focus on the broad cultural context, on the ongoing changes. So emerging technological solutions like NewsGuard, for example, which was discussed in the first lecture, or Twitter experiments or fact-checking tools can help make informed decisions, but I think cannot replace traditional analytical skills. Moreover, in everyday practice, there is not always we have time and opportunity to use technological advancements. So I think we need a balanced approach.
Mm-hmm. And how actively is the Russian library community developing this issue?
The Russian library community is quite active in developing issues related to information literacy and media literacy in general. There are a considerable number of theoretical papers and practical guidelines and manuals as well on these problems. But the issues of news media analysis is not yet widely popular in the professional library and information community. But it does not frustrate us because I suppose this is the niche that St. Petersburg State Institute of Culture has occupied, and we will try to develop these problems further.
Okay. I have here another question. Is the censorship of organizations the dilemma to spot the misinformation but violate the value of news?
As I understand, it's a question about can be censorship like reasonable in organization to counter fake news. So I think that censorship in all the forms is a bad idea. And the thing that we are trying to teach and we are trying to do in our course that there should be as many opinions, as many ideas as possible, and the user, as a news consumer, should be responsible um, for the ideas he or she took from this news. I mean, so it's the responsibility of consumer to verify the data, but the censorship can't help fighting fake news, I think.
Here's a question. Could you explain, sorry, could you explain it a little bit more on how plagiarism takes place in news reporting?
I mean, the plagiarism in news reporting, when we have some like scientific channels or scientific news reports, and sometimes journalists don't check the information carefully. Sometimes they don't verify the data, and sometimes they are just taking pieces about the scientific events. So they show just some pieces of the picture, not the whole picture, and it can transform badly the comprehension of the science of some scientific events. So when you don't have a full picture, it's always bad. And another thing is when one news make a plagiarism from another news. I mean, when journalists don't do their work well and they just copy other messages. So it's a special kind of plagiarism, I could say so as well.
And then there's a question about diversity, for example, in language and the need of translation. Do you think it increases the propensity for misinformation?
I'm not sure that I really clearly understand the question.
If you think that diversity, for example, in languages and the need of translation in other languages increases the propensity for misinformation.
So I think that diversity in languages it's a good way. It's a good way, and but I think that it's much better to promote linguistic competences among students to have the ability to consume the news from different channels. I mean, when you can consume some news from United States, some news from Britain, Germany, France, and Russia, you can construct much wider and plural picture of the situation. So probably it's not the it will not help always to know the truth, but it will help to see the mosaic of this world and the differences of the reality that is around us.
All right, I better stop you here.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Victor. Very good presentation. I have other questions to follow up with about working with students and in this issue too. Wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
All right, we are now going to have a presentation from Damian Wong and a Q&A with Sarah Peck, who will be discussing improving information literacy during the COVID-19 pandemic. Damian Wong is a librarian with the National Library of Singapore's engagement team with over 20 years of experience in content creation and training. When he is not busy developing content and conducting training to help Singaporeans combat fake news, he dabbles in e-learning, digital humanities, and social media. Sarah Peck has been the leading Source Understand Research Evaluate program leader, an initiative of the National Library Board since its launch in 2013. She is actively looking for ways to promote the collections of the National Library Singapore and National Archives Singapore through school outreach, public programming, and community engagement activities. All right, I turn it over to Damien and Sarah.
Hi, can all of you hear me and see me? Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you. It's currently 11 p.m. here in Singapore. If I'm speaking too fast, please let me know. Yeah, you can just interject and shout out. Okay, so I'll just begin my presentation. Okay, the National Library plays an active role as the national advocate for digital and information literacy in Singapore through its SHARE campaign. So as Anna mentioned earlier, SHARE stands for Source, Understand, Research, and Evaluate. Why we came up with this acronym is because if you mention information literacy to the men in the streets in Singapore, most people would not quite understand what it means because it's normally associated with academia. Okay, so since 2013, the National Library of Singapore has been working with its partners and stakeholders to engage different user communities, and that includes students, teachers, parents, working adults, and seniors. And we work to promote awareness, understanding, and adoption of information literacy and discernment. Okay, the SHARE framework has been infused in the school curriculum in Singapore, as well as a range of different national frameworks. So I'll show you some of these in the next few slides. Okay, this is the school cyber awareness curriculum, which was launched about two to 3 years ago. So as you can see, this is a partial screenshot of the web page, and you can see source and understand. Okay, we have the total defense concept similar to what other countries like Sweden and maybe Switzerland have, and for the last 20 to 30 years, it has been 5 pillars like social, economic, military, civil, and psychological defense. And sometime in 2019, the government added a new dimension called digital defense. So as you can see on the slide here, it says be secure, and this deals with cybersecurity habits. Be alert to guard against fake news and disinformation. And this is where the National Library of Singapore plays a part in through this SHARE campaign. And finally, the third tenets would be responsible to, and this will include things like cyber etiquette, for example. Okay, and in relation to digital defense, we actually worked with the SkillsFuture Singapore, which is actually part of the Ministry of Education here in Singapore. And this is to train working adults. So we have this new program called SkillsFuture for Digital Workplace Program. And there's also a 1 hour to 2 hour segment, which includes cybersecurity and combating fake news. And we provided the content and the instructional activities for this course. Okay, so in the next few slides, we will show you some pictures of our public education and outreach activities, such as lectures and workshops for schools and organizations. So as you can see, no one is wearing a mask and people are all in a packed lecture theatre. This was obviously taken before COVID-19. Okay, and you can see we also conducted learning journeys and tours of the library. And we also had a news gallery that was launched in March 2020, last year. Oops, sorry. Let me hit back. Press the wrong button. Just a moment. Okay. Yes. So apart from training trainers and conducting workshops, we also worked with our partners to embed the SHARE courseware in their respective learning apps and learning management systems. So this will allow their stakeholders to access our courseware anywhere, anytime. Okay, and then all was fine until something happened, right? Okay, as you know, this happened last year. And yes, I'm sure all of you have heard of the term infodemic. So Singapore was, it was no like exception in Singapore. We also had our fair share of fake news and disinformation about the COVID-19 virus. So just to give a brief background, we had something like a lockdown between 7th of April to 4th of May last year. And this is similar to what happened in many countries. So we had closure of workplace premises, closure of schools and so on, with full home-based learning. There was practically no mass gatherings allowed. So that included like shopping centers, places of attraction and places of worship, right? And then all of us were asked to wear masks and have social distancing. And then this circuit breaker was extended to 1st of June 2020. So what did we do? Okay, I'll show you a couple of pictures from the National Library's documenting COVID-19 initiative. Okay, as you can see, this was taken in April last year, and this is actually the financial district of Singapore. It's Raffles Place. Normally, during office hours, it'll be packed, but I think you can only see one person walking towards the train station here. Okay, in this photograph, this was taken on a Sunday afternoon at one of the busiest or largest shopping malls in Singapore. But as you can see, because of the lockdown, it was pretty quiet. Okay, I'll show you some of the headlines concerning the fake news that we were dealing with last year. So in this first example, there was this rumor as early as January 2020. Like even before the virus came into Singapore in large numbers. So you can see someone had this fake rumor that the certain train station was closed for disinfection due to the virus. And then secondly, there was also some rumors about the shortage of surgical masks in Singapore. So all these were actually disproven and posted by the government online for everyone to refer to. And then, of course, this was quite similar to what like other countries have encountered, like the rumor saying that the virus was being spread through poster articles. And of course, now with the like COVID-19 vaccination exercise going on, same as the rest of the world, there are also scams and fake news about the COVID-19 vaccines, including the adverse effects and deaths associated with this vaccination exercise. Okay, let me just, okay. Then back in February, even like 2 months before the lockdown, there were already rumors about closures of schools. So as you can see, Channel News Asia is actually the real is one of the news websites in Singapore, but someone actually created a fake Twitter account, complete with the logo and the blue tick, to post this fake news that schools will be closed in February. So this was a fake news. And of course, there was some satirical messages here. So I think you can just pause the video when you do playback on YouTube to read this. Okay, now how do we adapt to the COVID-19 situation in Singapore, and to talk about fake news regarding this? Okay, so broadly, there are 5 categories. We refresh the contents in our courseware. We Zoomified our talks and workshops. We provided resources for self-directed learning on COVID-19 related disinformation and information. We supported schools in their home-based learning, and we leverage on our partners for outreach and public education. Okay, let me address this in turn. So each time we receive fake news from our friends, relatives, in a way, it's a mix of dread as well as joy. Joy because we were able to receive yet another example to be used in the classroom. So in this case, in Singapore, we have something called the Safe Distancing Ambassador. So what this person does is to walk around and to tell Singaporeans not to not to cluster together in large groups, and to maintain a 1 meter safe distance between each other. Right. So, and of course, there was some fake news going around saying that he had the right to fine Singaporeans if they are spotted standing together or sitting on seats that are marked with a cross. Okay, then we also use some of the current news in the courseware. So as you can see, we have highlighted some of these incidents where I think in the early stage when it was still called the Wuhan virus, any sighting of ambulance crews wearing the personal protective equipment or PPE will be associated with someone being hauled away due to COVID-19 infection. And of course, I'm not sure whether you have received this in your respective countries, but there's this chain email that goes around advising everyone to like drink lots of warm water and mix it with salts and vinegar to get rid of the COVID-19 like virus. So again, we work this into our program. We let the participants discuss this online, and then we provided the so-called model answer to analyze this item. Okay, then this was another viral infographic that went around. So as you can see, there's not much information as to the provenance or the source of this information here. So we actually put this to the test in our classroom because when we do conduct the full day courses, we were able to cover things like biases and heuristics and how it made people more receptive to fake news. So in this example, we showed the official Twitter accounts of the Chinese embassy in the United States, and as you can see, they just retweeted someone else's posting, and then we showed a screenshot of this fact-checking chat group in Singapore, and some people actually believe that the Chinese embassy in the US shared this to sort of like deflect the blame from itself, right? But on the other hand, we also showed that this private clinic in Singapore also posted the same infographic, but to some of the participants in our classes, they felt that this was okay because this was posted by a bunch of doctors here. So there's this like the white coat effect. And the strangest thing is, few people actually bothered to go through the links here at the bottom to verify to see whether they are credible or not. Okay, so apart from the heuristics and how to spot fake news, right, tips, we also train some of the participants in the use of fact-checking tools. So Google reverse image search was one of them, and for videos we recommended the YouTube data viewer. I believe some of you may have used it before. So there was this viral video that showed this lady, I think she was being heckled by someone that was speaking Mandarin or Cantonese, saying that accusing her of selling masks that have been used and discarded. So what she did was just to wash them and sell them on the streets. Back then there was a worldwide shortage of surgical masks, so I think she was trying to make a quick buck. So after using this tool, the YouTube data viewer, we were able to find more information from this website. I'm not sure whether it's still live. Okay, and then for the full day course in Singapore, we also had this what we call a simulation exercise. So they have spent about 3/4 of the day learning how to use various fact-checking tools and methods, and we put them to the test, right? So we asked the various team members to deep dive into this Telegram chat group called the SG, or Singapore Fight Wuhan Virus. So this was back in February 2020, and you were asked to look through at all the strange posts that appear in the Telegram chat and to identify all the various biases and heuristics at play, and to categorize all the posts in terms of like, are they real or fake news, or is it just satire and humor, for example. More recently, when the Prime Minister of Singapore announced free COVID-19 vaccination for all Singaporeans, people responded in different ways. some people started to forward dubious information about the negative aspects of the Pfizer vaccine. So as you can see, there's this like Bell's palsy syndrome, which causes the face to be lopsided, right? So this actually made its rounds in Singapore through social media as well as WhatsApp. Likewise, for this dubious post about the FDA in the US announcing the death of Pfizer vaccinated victims. Yep. Some of them came in Chinese language, and then I just provided a translation using the Google Translate. So you can just see, as you can see here, it mentions something about infertility, right? Okay, and then I also received some this from my dad. He forwarded this. Okay, it shows that a mix of real and fake news. For example, this or the person who came up with this post actually cited the UK government's official website, but of course, some of these terms are some of the resources are actually quite technical for non-medical personnel. So if you were to read it, you will really understand. So what this person is trying to do is to like have a mix of like personal opinions and try to solve doubts about the vaccine, right? Okay, so this was the last workshop that we conducted in the classroom format in February 2020 before the circuit breaker, and everything went online. Okay, so we went fully into Zoom. In some cases, we use like WebEx or Microsoft Teams. I think once we had the Google Hangout. Was it? Yeah, I think Google Meet. We also conducted workshops for seniors because they are considered as the vulnerable group in, here. And then we conducted in both English language and Mandarin. We also created like pre-recordings. We call them e-presentations of short lectures to show to sort of like this is in lieu of public lectures, but it has to be shorter than 10 minutes. Okay, let me just move ahead. So to support home-based learning, we also created tutorial videos for the junior college students. So these are between 17 to 18 years old. So this replaced our mass assembly talks in schools because we were unable to go down to schools. Okay, and now I would like to show you a testimony of this partner. Like we work with different partners besides large organizations. We also work with ground-up movements, such as this a group of undergraduates from the one of our local universities. Okay, let's see what they have to say about us.
So for us, right, sure or not is a very colloquial term for like asking each other whether or not something is true. While searching on the net, we came across the SURE framework by NLB, and we have also like seen the work NLB like does with regards to their whole information literacy program. We realized that SURE, it really is very instinctive with regards to what the SURE stand for. It's comprehensive enough, but it's also simple and concise enough for the public, especially our target audience, which is like slightly older adults, to understand. Partnering the SURE framework with our Be Safe, Be Sure routine, right, is very effective because it's just really so simple to recall. And so even like during the roadshow, we ask people what does SURE stand for. They can easily like remember it. So I think that is something that is super good.
Okay.
So for us,
okay, I'm now in my last few slides. Okay, so for another form of partnership was with the Home Team Behavioral Sciences Center. So they are the behavioral scientists from our Home Affairs Ministry. And of course, they work with the police and so on. But in this case, they worked with us to come up with this quiz on how to cope, like how different people cope with COVID-19 situations. Bearing in mind that there was a lockdown, and not everyone cope with lockdowns that well around the world. And we also, and since we are from the library, we also weaved in information-seeking behaviors as well. So if you are so inclined, you can actually scan this QR code and try this quiz. Yeah, and this is a screenshot of like the results page, and you can see how you have coped. Is it adaptive coping or maladaptive coping? Okay, my scores are pretty low because I just click at random just to get this screenshot. Okay, and finally, we also leverage on our organization or on our partners from different organizations from the people, private and public sectors to form this digital and information literacy community of practice, or what we call the DILCOP. And we met twice last year online, of course, and we discussed and shared how like COVID-19 has affected public education in Singapore, and how the youth, for example, can help seniors cope with the COVID-19 and things like that. Okay, so, and with that, I've come to the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Damien. I think I'll be helping to facilitate the questions for Sarah, and I've got some good questions from the audience, and also some that I have myself. So I'll start out with one of our questions is, what challenges did your team face in its recent outreach efforts? How did you overcome those?
Sarah, you want to take that first?
Okay, so when we have the circuit breaker, we know that we can't go to school, we cannot do our physical outreach. I think the first thing we did was to go digital. Of course, the immediate task is to continue our content development and to reach out to the school, because schools are more receptive towards a digital environment. Like we recorded our training and we share the recorded tutorial and send over to the school, so they are able to, the student will be able to watch them remotely in their classroom. So we slowly built that familiarity with our stakeholders, going to the organizations and even have a Zoom sessions with the senior. But I must say that the group were very small for the seniors because they are not familiar with the IT applications. So I would say the immediate challenges were actually getting to the audience, the participants.
Yeah, and I'd like to add on, it was a bit difficult to conduct hands-on sessions, like for example, fact-checking tools and techniques, especially for the elderly. So in a classroom setting, we could walk around and demonstrate and then try to clarify some doubts, but it was pretty difficult to do online via Zoom.
Yes, I was just going to ask about that. You know, if you had situations where it was difficult to reach out digitally to you know, members of the community who may not have the same sort of, you know, computer capabilities or cell phone capabilities or ways to think digitally. A question that came in from the audience said, do you think school or universities can provide fake news or fact-checking services that is sustainable in the near future through a digital library format? Why or why not?
Digital library format. Okay, most of the, okay, for example, in the Sure or Not video that you have seen, the girl that was giving the video testimony, right? So the team was pretty active for a while, I think about 6 to 8 months, because they were doing that as part of the elective. But I think now that they have graduated, it's a bit hard to sustain. But of course, I've worked with another separate group of students from another university that proposed this idea of having something like a Reddit forum. So someone will have to share the fake news, and then another bunch of people will do the fact checking and post it online, something like Snopes. This has yet to be realized, because everyone realizes that it's a bit difficult to sustain in the long run.
Richard, you're muted.
I think you're muted, Richard.
Sorry. Sorry about that. Yes, I was just to follow up kind of on that question is, how has the COVID-19 situation kind of influenced the way you're working with your partners in this effort?
Okay, most of
think-
the, yeah, sorry, Sarah.
Damien, you go first. Yeah.
Okay, previously when we had collaborations with partners, we can actually do large-scale events, for example, like large-scale competitions or road shows. But because it's no longer possible, everything has been like channeled towards like social media collaboration, for example. Like we can sort of like host things on Facebook and then ask them to share, but that's about it. Otherwise, it's just like small-scale lectures with smaller groups. Yes, severely like restricted our reach.
Sarah,
Yeah, there were, just to add on, there were lesser collaboration due to the fact that because of the platform where we used to share in a mass lectures or even road show, but because of the situations, some of the discussion that we have with partners were put on hold or postponed. So we have to think of how to do it in a different way virtually. But there was certain group of people, audience that they reach out to, they think that it is not really possible or difficult. So that was the point where I think the outreach faced all these issues of not being able to reach out in a virtual methods. And so we also distribute our content via social media.
Do you feel that social media is a method that can be used to do fact checking or accuracy of information?
Okay, I will use it as a way to harvest like different types of misinformation or disinformation, but I wouldn't use that to respond to fact checking and to respond to whoever posted it. I'd rather do it like maybe in a chat is easier. Yeah. So far we have used WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Yes. Let me see if I can find some other good questions from the audience. We talked about that. This is an interesting question. What do you think the sustainable development of cyber ethics in the role of library and information science profession and librarians in adaptation of Web 2.0 to spot fake news?
Whoa.
Whoa, exactly. Yeah, sorry.
Okay, could you please repeat that again?
Sure, yes. I'll see if I can do it here. What do you think the sustainable development of cyber ethics is in the role of the library and information studies profession and for librarians? And the follow-up on that is in regards to the adaptation of Web 2.0 to spot fake news. Sorry, maybe we'll have to follow up on that one, maybe.
I think there are two parts to the questions. I think the first part is cyber ethics in the role of librarians. I think we have always been in the educational role performed by librarians, and this will continue to be significant, especially for outreach, info literacy librarians, to continue to advocate because it's just, I mean, we know misinformation is pervasive, and also we are talking about different culture. We have something concerning like cancel culture and different behavior, cyberbullying, which is actually also a big issues in locally or globally. So I think we need to educate our students or our public on how to be like an active global citizens in a different environment, whether you are students or you are citizens. So this is part that we think librarians has a role to play. We should seize this opportunity to be play an active role in applying information literacy to everyday activities. For the second part, Damien.
Okay, I would say just Web 2.0. Okay, because so far we have worked with some partners who have organized hackathons for, let's say, polytechnic students to develop solutions to, let's say, spot deepfakes or deepfake videos. So in a way, our contribution is to provide them with the broad overview of fake news and different types of let's say deepfakes, and then our counterparts from the partner organization will actually provide the coding training, and then together we'll come up with a solution. But of course, since these are student projects, it comes with different degrees of success in detecting deepfakes. Yeah, but it's just to get a greater awareness of the different tools which can be developed to spot fake news, and not just Web 2.0. Then in the thing about cyber ethics, I think, or cyber etiquette, it's not only, it doesn't really reside only with the LIS professions and libraries in Singapore. If you recall in my presentation, I mentioned something about digital defense. So this is actually a shared responsibility between a few agencies in Singapore. So NLB is one of them. So we take care of the fake news portion. Cyber etiquette is actually taken care of by our sister agency, which is the Media Literacy Council, right? The Media Lit Council. So they work with schools to organize these sort of like cyber wellness activities.
Great, thank you. Let me see if there's any more questions from our audience here. No, it looks like we have those that went through most of the questions. Let me see if there's anything. Last question that I had to have for you is it's going back to your efforts. Is can you share if there are any shifts in your key performance indicators for 2020 because of COVID? I'm guessing compared to previous years.
Okay, one thing for sure is in 2018 and 2019, we had zero online workshops. Everything was all done in schools, at the workplace, and so on. But this year, almost everything is digital. So that is the first shift that we have seen. And then hands-on is actually not so possible now. Everything is either like self-directed, as in we pre-record and then we disseminate online, or it has to be like just a lecture with some interactive activities via Zoom.
Thank you. I don't see we have any other questions from our audience here. I'm looking through everything, so I'll turn it back over here to Anna and take it from there.
I want to thank everybody, our panelists in particular. I see some research possibilities between Victor and Damien and Sarah that from our questioner, actually. So perhaps our questioner should partner in research with our panelists. This was a great lecture. I'm so impressed. I plan to go back and rewatch because I'm always so nervous getting these ready and making sure everything works, that I don't get to enjoy the actual presentation. So this actually is the last of our series of 4 lectures. And I just want to return and thank everybody who's presented in this lecture series. All of our panelists have done a tremendous job. I want to let our audience know that our presenters over the course of these 4 lectures agreed very generously and kindly to switch from a live format to this virtual format and to present on a monthly schedule. So we have been working with all of these speakers since August. I started first talking to Damien, Sarah, and Victor back in August about this. And I just want to thank all of you for your generosity of time and for sharing your research. The quality of these presentations has just been phenomenal. We all appreciate everything you've done, and we're so grateful that you've allowed us to record your work and your research and to share this with the world in the future. Um, these lectures have been highly attended, generally between 1 and 300 attendees, and then we also have these available for free downloads. So thank you so much. I also want to thank again the sponsors, both IFLA as well as the sponsoring sections, the news media group, the special interest group for digital scholarship and digital humanities, as well as the copyright and other legal matters, and the freedom of access to information, freedom of expression special interest group. This would not have been possible without their support and their help. We have had a tremendous team working on this. All of our moderators have done an excellent job, and I just want to thank everybody from all of these sections who have helped out and make this possible. Thank you so much. You can download this presentation later if you did not get to join us immediately. This is available on the News Media website in the same place where you registered under News Media Conferences, and that link is there on this screen. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.